Hello, everybody, and welcome to the February 13th, 2024 iteration of the Kubernetes SIG-windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so be sure to adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. As always, these meetings are, for anybody who's new here, that pretty much just needs to be nice to everybody. I think first is announcements. Last week was code freeze, and I think the next milestone that we're tracking, or last week was enhancements freeze. The next milestone is code freeze, which is at the end of the month. I'll get the exact date and put it in here. So we should all kind of be aware of that. Does anybody else have any other announcements?
Yeah, Mark, I just want to call out that the node log query enhancement to move to beta has merged. So we're on track to moving it to beta in the 130 release. I've already opened the kubelet PR or the feature PR where we move the feature gate to beta. I think I need to open up a doc PR. There's no code change so far. So we're looking to be on track. I've not heard any. The only suggestion I got from the node team was to create a not just a periodic like I have in place at the moment, but to add a job that I can run on PRs. So I might ping you on that, Mark. I think I know how to do it, but I'll ping you and James for reviews on that. And
yeah, we can stand that up and possibly limit it, like make a new one, limit it to just this one test, and then disable it once we've it's merged, just so we don't have pollute the number of like PR tests that we have available. Or we can just add it, make sure it's run for one of the other ones. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can add it. Like the problem is when you add it to the Windows Alpha, I already been asked questions like, you've named the test Alpha and now you're moving it to beta. Shouldn't you rename the test? So maybe we could rename the Windows Alpha PR to something else. The Alpha pre-submit to something else that encompasses non-standard features or something. And we could add this test to that so that I don't need to add a separate one just for node log query.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll figure something out. It's
okay. And Mark, now the test will run for both Linux and Windows nodes. If there's no Windows nodes, it won't run the Windows test, but it will always run the Linux test. So it should just work wherever you add it.
Excellent. I think that's kind of how we hope a lot of these tests to be. So that's good. Yeah, good. All right. Anybody have any other announcements? Okay. Next is give some space if there's any new contributors who want to introduce themselves or ask questions. I think everybody on the call, nobody on the call is new, but I'll still pause for a minute if there's anybody wants to either raise your hand or speak up. All right, next is onto the agenda. I guess first item on the agenda is kubeproxy DSR guidance from Microsoft.
Yeah, hi, that was me. I just wanted to call out something that we at Red Hat ran into recently with using kubeproxy in non-DSR mode. So having the DSR flag set to false. We were hitting issues with packet routing, and the customer that was hitting it ended up working through Microsoft support along with a joint effort between us at Red Hat and people working on the container networking side at Microsoft. Basically, we came to the conclusion that don't use DSR false, right? So always use DSR. I don't see really any official documentation in Kubernetes upstream docs. So I found some stuff in like the Microsoft.com docs as to recommendations to DSR, but it seems like there should be a firm like recommendation if you are using kubeproxy on Windows, enable DSR, right?
Yeah, I have some thoughts, but I don't think I have like the definitive answer or like the definitive statement from Microsoft, but we can reach out to some other folks who maybe get that. I think that we should always run with DSR true, and I remember even a few releases ago, I took a look and like we have that a Win DSR feature flag that there was two Windows related feature gates for Qproxy. There was Win overlay and Win DSR, and one of them I know went alpha a long time ago, and one of them did make it to beta. I had hoped, and I just never had time to do this or find somebody who also had time to do this. I was hoping some other folks from Microsoft could drive this, but I think my vision for that was to write a retroactive KEP, because those feature gates kind of went in before, not before the KEP process, but they were added as feature flags just to Qproxy, and then when the project unified feature flags across the project, they went in as feature gates, so there's no KEP ever written for them. And I think my guidance is probably to, like, if you're is to always run with DSR as true, and probably make that the default if you're using overlay, at least overlay networking mode. We just need some work to actually do that. Do you have any thoughts there, James? I don't think that we really do testing, at least in Azure, or the ones that we run on test grid with DSR not enabled.
And Mark, we got the impression from the folks we spoke to at Microsoft that if you run into issues in this sort of networking space, the first thing they'll do is reproduce it with DSR turned on. So it doesn't even, I mean, unless there's a real reason for folks not to use it, even in a non-overlay context, maybe we should just always say DSR true, unless there's some other repercussions that we don't know about.
If that's the guidance that you got from the support folks, that's probably the best route to take then.
Okay. Yeah, that's why we brought it up here too. I think Sebastian was like, hey, we should maybe do this upstream too, because it's not clearly called out in upstream, right? Which is I think the guidance we followed initially when we were doing all this. So, that's why I think Sebastian brought it up here.
Yeah, just we have that Windows Kubernetes like launch page pretty much from in the docs, right? It's maybe we just call that out there.
Yeah, let's do two things, and I can write some action items here. Let's update the docs to say we recommend always running with DSR enabled, and then let's also probably for the next release get a retroactive KEP out to just force that DSR to. I think what we should do in 130 then, if that's what we're going to do, is do a retroactive KEP to promote that feature gate to stable and leave it on and let that sit like that for a couple releases, and to give folks a chance to adjust to no longer passing that feature flag, and then promote that. I don't think the retroactive KEP process is that common, but there were a couple of examples of that in the enhancements repository. Was there any guidance on any of the Microsoft documentation around this DSR flag?
So the only thing I saw was, let me link it. There's this, but this actually isn't the problem that we were running into, right? So this wasn't using load balancers. So
Okay.
it's kind of like, related, but not the same thing. We were just having pods network just cut out because packets were just return packets, I think, were getting routed incorrectly.
Okay. And was this
Yeah.
Windows Server 2022?
2019 only.
Well, so was it working correctly in 2022? Or
we hadn't run into the issue in 2022.
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
And we're also getting the statement from Microsoft, like, we're not going to try to fix this in 2019, right? Just move to 2022 or enable DSR. and that's fair. But that's part of the whole problem. Yeah, I should have called that out. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, let's start with some of those 2 action items. I'll at least create work items for this after the meeting, and then we can figure out what to do, or who wants to take that up, or if there's anybody who wants to do the doc updates, volunteer, go for it. Anybody else have anything to discuss on this topic? Should we move on? All right, I see the next topic is a Minikube setup demo. I'm gonna stop sharing. And then see Vinicius on the call. Are you able to share screen?
Hey, folks.
Hey. I think it's set up so anybody can share, but let me know if you have problems sharing. And
Okay.
then let's see the Minikube setup demo.
Let's see. It's this one here. Sorry, it took me a moment to figure out the screen here. Let me know if you can see it.
I can't see anything.
Okay, let me see. What's going on? Oh,
Okay, now it says it's starting up. I see. Yep. Now at least I see everything.
all right. So thanks for the time. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to the folks here. I'm Vinicius. I work with at Microsoft with some other folks in here in this call. I've been covering Windows containers for a while and participated in these calls in the past already, but we'll try to join more. Conversation here is about Windows containers and Windows nodes on Minikube. There's been some conversations on the Slack channel. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been doing. Bob is on the call as well. He's gonna join me in talking about what we're doing. So I wanted to get started on where we started with this project, actually. So one of the things we've been hearing from customers, regardless if they run on a managed Kubernetes environment or if they run on their own deployment of Kubernetes on premises or on their own machines, is it's actually hard to get a simple Kubernetes environment on a developer machine or even an operations person machine just to try the application without wanting to do much more with Kubernetes itself. If I just want to try my application and see if it's running or not, how it operates on Kubernetes, if I'm moving my application from a VM to Kubernetes, what the difference is. Doing this in a simple, small developer machine, it's actually complicated. So my goal when I started this was to actually feel that promise of how do I test my application on a simple developer machine with a simple installation where I don't want to touch much of the Kubernetes environment, but I want to try my application on a Kubernetes environment. So Minikube was the option because it's not opinionated. It's part of the CNCF and Kubernetes project. So that's where I started. Now, Minikube doesn't support Windows. There are requests in the GitHub repo of Minikube to support Windows. So what I thought about was, well, if Minikube at the end of the day under the hood is Kubernetes, and there's a way to add a Windows node to Kubernetes, I might be able to work around Minikube and just deploy the Windows node, right? So that's what I proposed here. It starts with installation of a Windows 11 or Windows 10 machine, so it doesn't work on Linux or Mac, at least not for now, and not the way we're doing right now. You set your external switch on Hyper-V. You need Minikube installed, of course, and then an ISO file to deploy a Windows Server machine. And essentially what we do is we use Minikube to deploy a cluster. We tell the cluster that we're going to do it with multiple nodes. So Minikube now supports multiple nodes. And then we set up the Flannel CNI. We create the cluster, and then everything we do next is very similar to what you've already seen in the documentation to add a Windows node to a Kubernetes cluster, simply because that's exactly what we're doing. we're using that documentation to do the same on Minikube, but going around Minikube to do this. So we set up the Linux nodes. We start to use the kubeflannel, all the specifications. We set up all the configuration just like the documentation says. And then what we start to do in this process is we manually deploy a Windows VM and manually configure the VM to go and be ready to be deployed to a Kubernetes cluster. So we create the virtual machine, we open the virtual machine, go all the way through the installation. We recommend using server core. We go through the installation, open sconfig, change the configuration of the machine, and then we install the Windows feature for containers. Download containerd. Now it's again back to where you're probably familiar with deploying a Windows node. Configure all the things that we know you have to configure manually. And then we start install kubelet. You're probably familiar with all of this. Then we do some workarounds again, simply because we don't want to use, we do want to use the DNS name to reach the Minikube nodes. So essentially what we're doing here, we're using the host file to say, this is the name that we're going to use later in the, on the join command. We're pointing to the first machine on Minikube. And then again, we get the join command, use the join command to join the Windows node. We validate that the node has been joined. This is all kubectl. Now we are going around Minikube. Minikube is not aware that the Windows machine exists. We configure Flannel and kube proxy. And from this point on, this is a Windows machine. So the Minikube M3 machine that you see here ready is just a Windows node joined to a cluster. It happens that this cluster is a Minikube cluster. And then you just deploy a regular application just like you would on any Windows machine. From this point on, if the user got all the way here, they can try the application that they wanted to try, right? Now, this process has a lot of manual steps. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to get to the point where the customer can try the application and deploy the application that they built without doing so many manual steps, right? So Bob has been helping with some of the automation that we've been trying to add to Minikube in this case here. And of course, our end goal was always to have like maybe this added to the Minikube process, at least for if you're running on a Windows machine where you can run Hyper-V, right? But this is like, if this was only us doing, this would take way too long. And for now, we're just trying to get as automated as possible. So Bob has been working on these 2 PRs where we not only automate the process of deploying the Windows machine, but also automate the process of everything you have to do inside of that Windows machine. So I'm going to pass it on to Bob now so he can talk about some of the work that he has been doing over the past few days, or weeks, I should say.
Thanks. Let me know as soon as you can see my screen. Also, try to turn on my camera. Is it visible?
Yep, now it is.
Okay. First time doing this. Okay, so yeah, I've been working on the automation bit of the work initially started by Vinicius. I've had 2 PRs out. So the first PR was just the remoting bit where we did the configuration. And we also had another PR for doing unattended Windows install. So we needed to prepare a VM with Windows Server. So I think the first version we used Windows Server 2022. And then we do the automation on it. I have the first PR. Let me see if we can get this. Yeah, so I think Vinicius showed 2 PRs. One of the PRs, I've merged the PR on doing the auto installed into the second one for doing the remote install at the moment. there's a couple of bits that are still missing on this setup. So I think most bits of it are done. The reason why I'm saying some bits are missing is because we need some test files that I was using while I was doing the dev process to test to be removed. I think there's a few comments that I've seen in that PR. We also need some kind of better logging. I'll show a demo of how the whole process goes end to end, and I'll talk about the logging bit that needs to be improved. We also need to combine some of the scripts. We need a little bit of remote signing done so that you can test the scripts and just general cleanup, so the file naming and just make it better. So I'm working on this at the moment. I'm yet to push out a PR to get this final bit out. For the meantime, let me show a demo. So I'll just show a video demo of the whole process end to end, and then I can talk through it after that. Hopefully, the sound shows. Yeah, let me know if as soon as it starts on the sound is visible. Sorry, the sound is audible.
Is there any way to maximize that video window?
So I'll just stop it right there. But just an overview of the whole video is we have 2 commands at the moment that we run, and the whole manual process that Vinicius talked about happens at the background. So we've reduced it to just running 2 commands at the moment. And the combining bit that I'm working on to push the final PR is just have one final command, and the whole process happens automatically. The logging bit I was talking about is what you're seeing, the red bit where most of the logging is happening on the console. And we're trying to improve this to get it to file logging. So that should also be out by the PR that's coming out probably before the end of the week. Yeah, but that's a brief overview in the video on the whole automated process.
Nice. Thanks, Bob. And the goal after we talked to some of the folks at the Slack channel is so ideally what we want to do is we want to move whatever is in our repo now that we've been trying kind of as a one-off, just the 2 of us under the Windows SIG tools, so it can be part of the broader Windows SIG, and also onboard other folks that want to help with this project and maybe use this project for other stuff that we were not planning before, but then it might serve another purpose for the broader the Windows SIG group. So just in terms of what we plan to do next is we're going to clean up the 2 PRs or the single PR that Bob has open, doing that cleanup, doing some final testing, and then we merge and commit everything. And once that we do that, which should be in the next couple weeks, we should be able to take this out of my GitHub repo and move it to the Windows SIG repo.
I see, Pedro, your hand is up.
Yeah, really cool work, guys. I see you use Flannel. I just wanted to ask, did you or do you have plans on trying this out with Calico CNI? Full disclaimer, I'm a maintainer of Calico.
We would love to. With just the two of us, we actually wanted to get this completed before doing anything else. But it should be an option. There's no reason for not being an option.
Sure thing. If you
ideally,
ever
what-
plan to and need help, hit me up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ideally, what we should be able to do is, as we join the Windows node, we should be able to check if it's deployed with either Flannel or Calico, and then use that to just deploy the Windows node to whatever to the cluster, whatever the cluster is using, right?
Sounds good. Yeah, that would be awesome.
James?
Yeah, so what is there any plans to try to upstream some of this into Minikube so that it's just baked into Minikube? I guess I'm a little hesitant to bring something into SIG-windows tools because of the maintenance burden that goes onto SIG-windows. We've seen this with every time we create something in that repository, people kind of get to it and then it doesn't work, and then there's people trying to figure out all these different things. And as Minikube evolves, these scripts need to stay in touch as well. And so I think that's my biggest concern about bringing it in there. I'd be really nice to like have this into Minikube where you just say and Windows Node or something.
Yeah. I agree. I think the idea is while we do this as a workaround, we should keep it outside of Minikube, right? Today it lives on my GitHub repo, but I'm proposing that we move this to the Windows SIG. I'm open to suggestions. If you think it's best that even then we keep it outside of the Windows SIG, I'm open to that. I was just thinking that we might get more eyeballs and more collaboration if we do move it to the Windows SIG tools. But once we start to actually propose changes to Minikube itself, of course, the idea is not to do this on this repo. You should do this to the original project. But yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd rather have eyeballs working on Minikube than working on the scripts themselves.
Yeah.
That would be my take, because I don't want energy and time pushed into scripts when the energy should be really pushed into Minikube. And so if we can find folks who can take what you've done, because you've done, this is awesome. I love this. It's helped some other folks get started quickly. But I would like if we can find people that are interested in it and wanted to contribute to scripts and help them contribute to Minikube instead, I think that would be a better long-term solution for us.
That's a good point. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure the order of hands. I'll just go next. Great work, folks. I really love what I saw today. But I echo what James is saying. We should try and reduce what we move into SIG-windows because it has a tendency to just, move and then it just kind of meanders over there a little bit. I also want to ping Matthias, who I see is on the PRs that have been opened, because I know he's been doing work on the SIG-windows dev tools. And, I think some of this work can kind of be merged and you folks can collaborate and come out with a single sort of solution is what I'm hoping for. And the other thing, I was quickly looking at the PR, there's some mention about downloading an ISO and massaging it. I'm hoping we don't need to do that in the final destination because that's just fraught with peril is the way I would put it. But other than that, great work, folks. I'm really happy to see this.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think.
So sorry, did I mean to interrupt you?
No, I was just going to pass the ball to Bob, who had his hand up too. But other than that, nice work.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. And just to add on what Vinicius said, I think Ian can comment more on this. Yes, there are plans to move this to Minikube. That is the end goal for this. And we've looked at the next steps after moving this to SIG-windows, where we need to have a proposal out to the Minikube folks and have this as an enhancement. So I've talked about this with Ian, and maybe he can comment more on this. But yeah, those plans are on the way and on the pipeline.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of the state that we are right now. I don't think we are ready to open any requests or enhancement requests or whatever the name is at Minikube. We need to figure out a bunch of stuff of automating the process before we do that. I think Mateus has looking at the project as well, has looked at the project as well. And not just Mateus, but like anyone that is interested on this, we're more than welcome to onboard more folks to help on this.
Yeah, I've been watching it. Excellent work. I mean, this is something I've been missing for a very long time. For a year or so. But yeah, it's great, and actually, it shows amazing things you can do. You can automate the script. So yeah, I've been watching this PR. To be honest, I don't know where this should live. Should it be standalone project, some like a sidecar project to Minikube, or part of SIG-windows DevTools? I don't know, but I think we have some ideas how to utilize what you've done in SIG-windows DevTools. So yeah, it's difficult. I can't make any suggestion in terms of like structuring things. I'm going to use this. I'm going to kind of try to be active and propose anything I can propose for improvements to this part of the project, wherever it lives. And yeah, so the collaboration will be there. Where it should live, I don't know. What I think one of the obstacles could be that this is PowerShell, so you can run it on Windows. How to achieve the same thing having a Linux host? That would be like, yeah, the same level of functionality, but having a Linux host. And I'm a Windows user, but I'm thinking like in terms of bringing more people in to this solution, but to have a hybrid cluster based on Minikube. So some people may be interested in running it from Linux host, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, even going further, like right now, we're doing this on PowerShell on a Windows machine. In the future, if it goes to the Minikube project, if you can have one single line to create the Minikube cluster and add the Windows node, could this run on a Linux host? Could this run on a Mac host? Because at the end of the day, it's just a process of deploying a Windows VM, right? So things to consider, but at the end of the day, it's just work that needs to be done and validated and everything else.
Yeah, I just want to say I think that where this runs, if it's on a Windows machine or a Linux machine, is really the like a big hurdle for this project. It seems like we have to do different things just because of how Windows virtualization and containers and lack of kind works, and this is where we keep getting stuck. So if we could if there's a way to share as much of the at least joining the nodes to the clusters and things like that, once a node is set up, that might be good too. But yeah, this is an issue that it's been around since the very beginning of the SIG-windows DevTools experience.
Yeah, just to add on, I think the hypervisor issue is one we are digging into, and it's one of the next things we wanted to see. What other than Hyper-V can we explore supporting? So if anyone knows, is VirtualBox more common than VMware? What's the most other common hypervisor that we can explore? That would be great.
I know Jay and Amim and folks used VirtualBox for a while. With the earlier, and Arvin for the earlier iterations of SIG-windows DevTools. that didn't work for any of the MacBook hardware, which I think was a pivot there too. But yeah, we can.
Yeah, Mark, at this point, I'm just going to say, let's ignore the Macs. It's just too complicated. They have custom, hardware. If we can get it on Windows, that's great. Linux, even better. I think the Mac is a lost cause at this point, in my in my opinion, at least, till someone who's really dedicated and wants to get it working on Macs is able to do it. I don't know if our SIG has the cycles to get that going.
I agree.
Yeah, so like for this project, I think we finally found a good solution that works like both for Linux and for Windows. And the driver that we can use is behind the scenes for what we're doing in terms of hypervisor. But I think it's a good progress. I think we're finding like a light in the end of the tunnel. And thanks, Vinicius, to bring this presentation here and showing like the power that this Minikube and the potential this Minikube solution has.
And if you allow me like a couple moments just to say thank you, Bob and Ian, for the support this. They actually helped me get over one of the issues that I found at the beginning. Mark and James also helped a lot in figuring out the start of the project. So I appreciate all the help.
Yeah, I personally thank you. Thank you all guys for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important, and it's really good to see some work happening here. I know we're over time. I saw there's one more agenda item. Amim and Arvind, for this operational readiness announcements. You want to discuss that quickly now, or just wait?
Yeah, so I think Jay bought this team yesterday in the channel, like to get some lights in this operational readiness release that we did for 0.10. And not sure what Tatenda was to be here, was about to be here as well. But I think the idea is to find a place to officially announce that and start like getting more visibility for this.
I think probably Kubernetes, the announcement alias announce at kubernetes.io might be appropriate. I do know that I've run into issues sending to that alias. It seems like there's only certain people can send to the alias. I'll try and dig into that too, but I do see announcements going to like dev@kubernetes.io for new releases, and even though it's not like a official like a stable release, I think we should probably still announce it because it's a big milestone.
Echo, anything else, Arvin, that you have be speak with them?
No, I just wanted to make sure we speak about this. I think it's a good idea to announce it somewhere. I was also thinking we can put it as one of the teams as part of 130, because I don't think anything that we put in teams needs to have an enhancement, or it has to be part of K/K or anything like that, right, Mark?
I don't think so. I think if it's related, we should be able to do that.
So I think we can add it as a team, and that can be another way we announce this too. And then Claudio can also talk about this during the next SIG, the next Kubernetes SIG, right? The next Kubernetes, next KubeCon in Paris.
Yeah. We could possibly request a blog post for it too, outside of the release cycle. I know like a lot of the blogs are usually related to features graduating. But I think there's shouldn't be any issues with a blog post for feature graduating that's not part of the release cycle. I think the status just wouldn't need to be tracked by the release team as much, but that's another option.
Yeah, Tatenda is starting a draft, and Jay was about to help on that as well. So I hope we can do this soon. Yeah, that's it for the topic.
All right, so I guess some action items. So, you'll work with Tatenda and get some either the blog or added it to the theme. Sounds good. All right.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, everybody. See you around.
Right.